is your name, please?
My name is Tony Costello.
What is your name, please?
My name is Tony Costello.
What is your name, please?
My name is Tony Costello.
Two of these people are imposters. Only one of them is the real Tony Costello, and is the only one who is telling nothing but the truth. And now, here is the host of Nothing But the Truth, our dealer in fact and fiction, Mike Wallace.
Good evening. Nothing But the Truth is a game of cross-examination wherein four presumably smart people try by direct questioning to find out which of three challengers is telling nothing but the truth. And now let's meet our truth detectives. What is your name, please?
My name is Polly Bergen.
My name is John Cameron Swayze.
My name is Hildy Parks.
My name is Dick Van Dyke.
And I can attest to the fact that these people are telling nothing but the truth. Now, standing right up here are three people, all of whom claim to be the same person by name Tony Costello. But only one of these people is telling nothing but the truth. The other two have assumed the identity of the real Tony Costello in an attempt to fool our cross-examiners. Now, panel, if you will open the envelope in front of you, you will find a photostatic copy of this affidavit. This affidavit was sworn before John Hunter, notary public of New York City, and it contains pertinent information on the life of Tony Costello. Please listen, panel, while I read the affidavit. I, Tony Costello, am married, and I have two children. Years ago, I performed with a young singer named Frank Sinatra. He's still singing. But I went on to become a successful truant officer, an occupation which I pursue in New Jersey, where I live with my family. And when I'm not checking the school attendance, I often spend my time painting. I swear that the above statement is true and that every answer I may give shall be nothing but the truth. And if anything I say conflicts with the facts in this statement, I will forfeit all my winnings. Signed, Tony Costello. Now, I would like to emphasize that while the real Tony Costello will tell nothing but the truth, the other two members of the team, the imposters, will do everything they can to fool the panel into believing that they are the real Tony Costello. And, of course, they don't have to stick to the truth. Will our team of challengers please come down and take their seats? Cross-examiners, you have 7 minutes in which to question our challengers. You will each question for 30 seconds at a time. You may direct your questions to anyone you wish. Just make sure that you address them by number. At the conclusion of the questioning period, you're going to be asked to register your vote for the person who, in your opinion, is the real Tony Costello. And we have also arranged for members of our studio audience to make their selections electronically. Now then, are our challengers ready?
We are. Ready.
Are our cross-examiners ready?
Oh, yes.
Very well, let's begin our questions, and we'll give the first 30 seconds to John Cameron Swayze.
Number one, naturally, I want to know when you were with Frank Sinatra.
In the year of 1936,
What was he doing at that time?
we were both on the amateur hour.
Were you with him when he was with Tommy Dorsey?
No, I was not.
How old are your two children?
14 and 11.
Number three, give me the ages of your two children backwards.
5 and 7.
Boy and a girl.
No.
What?
2 girls.
Two girls. Number two, when were you with Sinatra?
1935.
And what were you both...
Hold it, and we go now to Hildy Park.
Number 3, what do you find is the major offense that you have to keep after as a truant officer?
Oh, they like to stay home and watch television, mostly.
Thank you. Number 2, you started to say, where were you with Frank Sinatra?
Where? Singing in the church and civic affairs.
And what year was that?
About 35.
And what would you say is the major offense that you have to contend with, sir?
Truancy.
Well, in what branch of it? It's nice if you're a truant officer.
Well, how do you mean? What branch?
We'll have 30 seconds now from Dick Van Dyke.
Tony, number one, what is your given first name?
Tony. Antoinette.
Antoinette. Number two, what's your given first name?
Anthony.
Anthony. Number three, what is your given?
Antonia.
Antonia.
Yes.
Antoinette, number 1. What kind of performance did you do with Frank Sinatra?
Oh, I sang.
You sang
That's right.
a song. Number 2, what did you do?
I sang also.
Number 3,
Sang.
what voice range do you have?
Oh, I'm a pop singer.
You're a pop singer.
30 seconds now with Polly Bergen.
Number 1, what range voice would you say Frank Sinatra has?
At the time, truthfully, I don't remember.
Number 2,
Baritone.
number 3, what do you sing? Baritone. Were you also, number 3, were you also a singer,
Yes.
Miss Frank Sinatra? How old did you say your children were?
7 and 5.
Number 1, how old were your children again?
11 and 14.
And number 2, what?
John Cameron Swayze, will start once again with you.
Number 2, I'd like to have you outline very briefly what a truant officer does. That is, how do you work? Who sends you out, for example?
The clerk, I believe it's the clerk in the
Clerk of what?
office, in the office at the school.
How does he get the news to send you out, the word to send you out?
I believe they get the information from the different teachers.
You spend time painting?
Yes, I do.
What type of painting?
Painting.
What do you work in, oils or watercolors?
Paint.
Ask a question, get an answer. Hildy Park.
Number 1, can you be a little more specific? What kind of painting do you do?
A mastercraft.
You're what?
Mastercraft painting.
Glad I asked that. Number 3, what kind of painting do you do?
Ceramics.
Painting? Oh, that's clay and stuff like that, isn't
Yes.
it? Number 3, I think I'll borrow John's question as far as the truant office is concerned. Who sends you out?
Well, you get a list, an absentee list from the principal and the clerk in the principal's office.
Dick Van Dyke.
Number 2, I have it in my mind that you're lying. Could you tell the court on what kind of surface do you paint?
The court? I paint on a flat surface.
Well, what is the composition of it? Is it wooden or?
Wood, plaster.
Well, you don't do artistic painting, in other words. You paint walls and things.
Yes.
We're about halfway home. Polly Bergen.
Number 2, are you a house painter?
Yes.
Gee, it took us a long time to get to that.
It sure did.
How old are your children, number 2?
11 and 7.
11 and 7. Number 3, how old did you say your children were?
7 and 5.
She has a wonderful memory, doesn't she? Number 2, I'm sorry, number 1, how do you get the notice to go out as a truant
Well, I
officer?
report to school every morning, and I go to the office, and they give me the absentee list.
John Cameron Swayze.
You report to what office?
To my school office.
Now, what does a
Principal's
child have to do to require the services of a truant officer?
Well, we generally have an idea if we feel that the child is a habitual absentee.
Well, can't you tell that from the record?
Yes.
How many times does he have to be absent?
Well, say 2 or 3 times.
Well, I don't want you to say how many times.
3
Two,
times. 3 times.
3 times.
That's right.
Number 3, how many times do you think a child has to be absent?
Do I think or do I work? You want how I work or what I think?
Saved by the bell. Talk about the evasive answer. Hildy Park.
Number 1, did anything happen in New York City this morning around 8 o'clock that caused a great deal of absenteeism in your school?
Well, I wouldn't know.
Oh, well, Elvis Presley's new movie opened, and I read about a lot of kids who skipped school, and I wondered if you had the problem. Where in New Jersey do you live?
Irvington.
And where's your school?
Irvington High School.
What time do you have to be in the office?
I'm in at 9 in the morning.
And you have the absentee list compiled
That's
by
right,
that
at
time?
9 because the children start at 8:30.
Oh, I see. Number 3.
We go to Polly Bergen.
Number 3,
I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. We don't. We go to Dick Van Dyke.
He's prettier than Van Dyke.
I don't mean to deprive you of your 30 seconds, Richard.
You're just too polite, Mike. Ladies first. I was going to ask number 1, what office do you report to?
At the principal's office.
At
It's
the-
at the high school.
Each truant officer is assigned to one school.
That's right. Well,
Let me ask number 2. When you're sent out to bring in a child, do you go to the parents?
We go to the home.
And what do you say? Is there something that you must say to the parents?
If we find the parents at home, why, we want to know why the child is out of school.
And that's all you have to do.
That's right.
No written report must go back to the
Yes.
school.
Have you had enough, Dick, or can I go to Polly now?
Oh, I've had plenty.
Polly Bergen.
You sure you wouldn't like to go back to Dick? Number 3, I liked John's question. Would you please answer it now? What is the specified time? Not your opinion, but the legal specified time before you have to go out and check on a child.
Well, in my school, we do it on the very first day they're absent.
The first day they're...
Yes.
Phew, hate to go to that school. Number 2, do you know the specified time before you must go out to check on a child?
Well, it usually runs about 2 or 3 days.
That's about it, cross-examiners. 7 minutes, which has given you, we hope, time to separate the fact from the fiction about our challengers. Now, this is a secret vote because the amount of money our challengers win depends upon the accuracy of our panel selection. Panel, if you will mark your ballots, please. And now, audience, it's time for you to vote. And on my way down to the audience...
Wait, I want to look just once.
One more look, Polly. All right, all right.
Didn't help.
Polly claims that she can't see without those glasses. John, Hildy, and Dick. Now, audience, it's time for you to vote. You'll notice that fastened to the seat in front of you, in front of each one of you, is a button. By pressing this button at the proper time, you can register your vote for challenger number 1, 2, or 3, whoever you think is the real Tony Costello. Now, please don't anybody push the button until I tell you. By the way, an electronic lockout on the voting machine will prevent you from voting more than once or from changing your mind once you've voted. All right, then. All of you who believe that the real Tony Costello is number 1, push your buttons now. Now, all of you who believe that the real Tony Costello is number 2, push your buttons now. And those of you who believe that the real Tony Costello is number 3, push your buttons now. We'll be back to tabulate the results of our balloting after this word from our sponsor. Now let's have the results of the voting. Remember, there were 5 votes cast, 1 vote for each of our 4 cross-examiners, and 1 vote representing the majority opinion of our audience. Each member of the team of challengers will get $100 for every incorrect vote. So if the team has fooled everybody, they'll win a total of $1,500. And now, right away, let's have the results of our audience poll.
Our studio audience has indicated its choice as follows. For Tony Costello number 1, 47%. For Tony Costello number 2, 13%. And for Tony Costello number 3, 40%, which means that the audience vote goes to number 1.
Well, now that we know how our audience has voted, let's see if our panel agrees with them. This is Polly Bergen's ballot. She votes for number 1. John Cameron Swayze marks his ballot for number 3. Hildy Parks. Let's see, that's 1 and not 2, but 3. There we go. Hildy Parks believes it to be number 1. And Dick Van Dyke has marked as his choice number 2. That means that we have 3 votes for number 1 and 1 vote for number 2 and 1 vote for number 3. Now, as you know, only one of the challengers can actually be Tony Costello. So now, will the real Tony Costello please stand? I must say, Dick Van Dyke is looking very proud over there. Now, Richard, tell us, what about it? What led you to the real Tony Costello?
Well, Mike, I think possibly my experience with truant officers.
Was there any particular clue as the questioning went along that led you to number 2, seriously?
Well, yes, having children in school, I knew that my children had been out of school for 1 or 2 days being sick, and that no truant officer had ever shown up. And he said that a certain number of days had to pass. before a truant officer would come.
Actually, Tony Costello, how many days do you have to wait before you go to see an errant truant child?
A real truant would be about, well, you go according to his past performance, you might say. If he's habitual, a spotty attendance will be cause enough to go after him. Every other day or every other 2 or 3 days or so, something like that. Well, then naturally we run after him.
And, of course, the thing that we're all curious about is to know when you sang with Frank Sinatra, Tony Costello.
I told you the truth, around 1934, 35, and 36, at many, many civic and church affairs in Hoboken.
I see. John Cameron, Swayze, what led you to number 3? Were you, or rather, number 1? You were on number 1.
No, I was on number 3.
All right, then
well,
tell
I
us
like the general tone of her answers, and it's been so long since my children were in school, I don't know what truant officers do these days. Of course, I knew when they were in school, they were there every day. But she gave one flat answer to that question, very positive, and I eliminated number 2. I thought he looked like a truant officer.
Well. All right, Tony Costello, number 1, will you please tell us right now who you really are and what you do?
Yes, my name is Alice Brooks. I'm a mother of 2 children. I sell cemetery plots, and I live in Brooklyn.
I see. And number 3, Tony Costello, who are you and what do you do?
My name is Vicki Shear. I'm a dancing school teacher, and I live in the Bronx.
Well, I certainly... You certainly were very entertaining and very convincing challengers. Thanks to each one of the 3 of you. There were, let's see, 4 incorrect votes worth $100 apiece for each of the challengers for a total of $1,200. Thanks to the 3 of you, and good night. And now, let's have our next team of challengers.
What is your name, please?
My name is Thomas W. Sheridan.
What is your name, please?
Thomas W. Sheridan.
What is your name, please?
My name is Thomas W. Sheridan.
So, here, panel, we have our second problem for the evening. These 3 people all claim to be Thomas W. Sheridan, as you know. And as you know, only one of them is telling nothing but the truth. Please open the envelope in front of you and take out the photostatic copy of this affidavit, and please listen while I read the affidavit. I, Thomas Sheridan, am a bachelor, and I live in my own home on Long Island. I served my nation in World War II, and although I was a captain of my own vessel at one time, I am now a landlubber working as a marine consultant. I spend a good deal of my spare time bicycle riding, and I have often covered 20 miles a day on my bike. Because of an unusual circumstance, my name once appeared in Ripley's Believe It or Not syndicated column. I swear that the above statement is true and that every answer I may give shall be nothing but the truth. And if anything I say conflicts with the facts in this statement, I will forfeit all my winnings. Signed, Thomas Sheridan. Challengers, will you please come on down and take your seats? Now, panel, as you know, if the real Thomas Sheridan gives any misinformation, all of his winnings are going to be forfeited. Cross-examiners, again, you will have 7 minutes in which to question our challengers. You will each question at 30 seconds at a time. Just make sure that you address the challenger by number. And again, we're going to ask our audience in the studio here to make their choice. So then, are our challengers ready?
Yes.
Ready.
Are our cross-examiners ready?
Ready.
Very well, let's begin the questions. We'll give the first 30 seconds this time to Dick Van Dyke.
Oh. Number 1, sir, as a marine consultant, what do you do?
Why, explain the technicalities of ships and accidents and things of that nature.
Can you describe for me a Marconi rig?
The Marconi rig is a rig without a gaff.
Number 2, what do you say a Marconi rig is?
A Marconi rig is a rig without a gaff and side braces.
We go to Polly Bergen and her rig.
Number 1, what is a rig without a gaff?
Sail without that thing on the top that spreads the top of the sail.
Oh, the thing on the top, it's like. As a seafaring man, number 1, what happened, do you think, in the Andrea Doria accident?
Well, they both hit each other.
That's the perfect answer. You need go no further. John Cameron Swayze.
Number 3, what is a centerboard? Number 2.
A centerboard?
Yes.
They use it on small craft where you have no keel to steady it in sailing.
Would you use a centerboard on a motorized craft or a sailboat?
On a sailboat.
Only.
You could use it to steady a motorized craft because they roll.
Number 1, what do you say to that? Would you use it on a motorized craft?
It could be used on a motorized craft.
Number 2.
Number 3, Hildy Park.
Back to number 2. Can you tell me the basic difference between a ketch and a yawl?
Certainly. The yawl has the jigger back of the transom or stern post, and the ketch has it forward of the steering post.
Thank you very much. Number 3, what would you say a Marconi rig is? Number 1, you say you do a great deal of bicycle riding. What kind of bike do you ride?
An English bike.
Dick Van Dyke, would y'all take over?
Oh.
Thank you, Mark. It says you're a bachelor in your own home on Long Island, number 3. I'm sorry. Do you live alone?
No, I live with my mother.
And number 2, do you live alone?
No, I live with my mother.
Number 1, do you live alone?
Yes, I live with my mother.
You're really Ernest Borgnine, aren't you?
30 seconds now for Polly Bergen.
Number 1, what is the definition of knees in the hull of a ship?
Knee? That's in a wooden ship. It's what goes out under the deck, between the deck and the frame, between the
Number 2, what is the knee usually made of?
In the old sailing days, they made them of oak as a rule, because they could get knurled oak that would fit around where the olive deck is.
John
Number 1.
Cameron Swayze.
Beg your pardon, Mike. What does abaft the beam mean?
Back of the center part of the ship.
Number 2, why do they call the left-hand side of the boat as you face forward the port side?
Actually, I wouldn't know, because
Number 1,
I'm
can you
a
answer that
specialist
question?
What's that?
The port side of a boat, why is it called that?
Because it's the left side of the boat.
Yes, so why do they call it the left side the port side? There's a reason.
Well, there's port, and the other side is starboard.
Hildy Park.
Number 2, I'm curious. Why were you in Ripley's Believe It or Not column?
Well, believe it or not, I think it was about 1939, I was on the Atlantis. We were going down the mid-Atlantic ridge. I'm not a deep-water sailor in some senses. I'm a specialist in oceanography. And off the Canary Islands, as we got down there, there was one place, a shelf, where a small island came up. I spotted it, and we couldn't stop because we had to go down to take other measurements and get some course.
And as the sun sank slowly in the west, up came Dick Van Dyke with 30 seconds.
Number 2, briefly, what is oceanography?
It's a conglomeration of sciences. It's a little meteorology, a little geology, a study of currents. It's, in brief, it's what they practice at Woods Hole or Miami or out on the coast.
Number 3, if you wanted to buy a good racing boat over 40 feet long, would you buy a 1957 model, or what year would you buy?
No, I wouldn't buy a 57. No.
Polly Bergen, 30 seconds.
Why wouldn't you buy a 1957?
Because they're not made yet.
They come out later than cars, huh, Dick? I'll never forgive him.
Boy.
Number 3, what is your definition of the knees in the hull of a barge, say?
Well, I don't really know because that isn't the field that I specialize in.
John Cameron Swayze.
Number 1, how did you get in Ripley's column?
I was washed overboard and washed back off the ship.
Where did this happen? Where did this happen? Where?
1907,
Whereabouts?
off the Aleutian Islands.
What boat were you on? What ship were you on at the
The
time?
ship and Teen Acme.
What kind of a craft was that?
It's a four-masted ship with 3 square rigs and 1 fore and aft.
Who was the captain?
Captain Daniel McKay.
And what was your job?
I was third mate.
Hildy Park.
Number 1, the tires on an English bicycle, are they balloon ones?
No. No, they're a narrow tire.
I see. And how do the handlebars go, up or down?
Well, mine go up because...
Does England know about this?
I don't like to bend over.
I see. Where in Long Island do you live, sir?
What?
Where in Long Island do you live?
Little Neck.
Little Neck. And where do you ride around there?
Oh,
Aren't you interested?
Dick Van Dyke. Yes, I'd love to know. We'll find out later. Richard?
Number 2, you were the captain of what ship?
I was in charge of the Atlantis. It's the oceanographic vessel from Woods Hole.
I said that was mainly for the study of
Yes.
the ocean.
Yes.
Number 1, what ship were you the captain?
There was a sailing master.
I had command of the Newport. I had command of two...
What kind of service was that?
What?
Polly Bergen. Oh, I'm sorry. No, that's it. That's the 7 minutes, cross-examiners. Time once again to separate your facts from your fiction, and I think you've got a tough one again this time. This is a secret vote, as you know, because the amount of money that these people win depends upon the accuracy of your selection, so no collusion, if you please, over there. Please mark your ballots. And now, audience, it's time once again for you people to vote. Please don't push the buttons until I get over there and tell you to. I'm going to pick up... Come on, Polly, stop loitering. Pick up the ballots on the way. Fine. Now, time for the audience once again to vote. Remember, you can't vote more than once, nor can you change your mind once you've voted. All right, then. All of you who believe that the real man is number 1, push your button now. All of you who believe that the real gentleman is number 2, push your buttons now. And finally, all of you who believe that the real Thomas Sheridan is number 3, push your buttons now. Again, we'll be back to check on the results of the balloting after this message from our sponsor. Now, let's see how everybody voted. First, let's have the results of our audience poll.
Our studio audience has indicated its choice as follows. For Thomas Sheridan number 1, 43%. For Thomas Sheridan number 2, 27%. And for Thomas Sheridan number 3, 30%. Which means that the audience vote goes to number 1. Now, let's see how our panel voted. This is Polly Bergen's ballot. She votes for number 2. John Cameron Swayze marked his ballot for number 1. Hildy Parks believes she goes with Polly for number 2. And Dick Van Dyke has marked his choice as number 1. That means that we have 3 votes for number 1, 2 votes for number 2, and no votes for number 3. Now, only one of these challengers, obviously, can be the real Thomas Sheridan, so now will the real Thomas Sheridan please stand? Well, the audience and the 2 fellows were absolutely correct. You know, the first thing, though, Polly, that I would like to ask you is how come you seem to know so much about knees in boats, that is?
Well, because I was reading a book this morning called 3 Girls on a Barge, and they spent like 3 chapters on knees. And I didn't know what knees were, but it stuck in my mind, and thank goodness we had something about knees.
Now
it
you
didn't
understand.
help me, but...
What led you to number 2, Hildy? Was it the fact that he talked so
No, I just
convincingly?
wanted to know what he did do to get his name in Ripley, and I thought maybe if I got a chance to ask him, he could finish that story.
I see. Now, about this 1957 craft, I'm unfamiliar with boats, Dick Van Dyke. You seem to know a good deal about it. What is the... Why did you ask the question about the 1957 boat and a racing boat over 40 feet?
Well, I have heard a lot of real sailors say, Mike, that the older boats before 1945 were better racing boats than the new ones.
I see. Well, the real one then is Thomas Sheridan, number 1. Thomas Sheridan, number 2, will you tell us what your name is and who you really are?
My name is Henry Chapin. I live in New Hope, Pennsylvania, and I'm a writer.
You're a writer?
Yes.
Who obviously knows a good deal about boats and the sea because you talk very convincingly.
I've been interested in maritime history a bit, together with the rest.
I see. And Thomas Sheridan, number 3, the panel almost ignored you for the first 4 or 5 minutes. I think that you gave yourself away pretty close to the beginning. What is your name and what do you do, sir?
Domenico Facci, and I'm a sculptor.
A sculptor?
I live here in New York.
I want to thank and congratulate our team of challengers. There were 2 incorrect votes worth $100 apiece for each of you challengers for a total of $600. Thank you very much and good luck to you. Well, panel, your inability to spot an honest man has cost us $1,800 tonight. But we have just a little bit more money where that came from, so you can come back, all of you, next week. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Mike Wallace saying goodnight until next week when we'll be back with 2 new teams of challengers and the same 4 cross-examiners who will again try to separate fact from fiction and get the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Nothing But the Truth has been a Mark Goodson, Bill Godwin production. Produced in association with the CBS Television Network.